I am the famous American, and I am enlisting your help so that I can know what the rules are. Because when it comes to getting canceled, the rules are always changing. People can get fired today for using a certain word that people used to say 20 or 30 years ago, a word that you could even watch a movie on Netflix where they say the word, and you can still just watch it on Netflix. But if a person says it, or even if it's leaked that they said it in an email or in a private conversation, that person can lose their job. So that's where we're at. So best we can, we should learn what the rules are, since they are constantly changing when it comes to cancel culture. So I want to share a story with you, and then you can help me know what the rules are, because I don't know. I'm not making the rules up, and I'm also not the kind of person who's going to complain about the rules. I'll just kind of go along with them. And like, oh, that's the game we're playing today? Okay, there's the rules. Okay, all right. As long as I don't lose in this game, that's cool. Like, that's how apathetic I am about it. Like, I'm just politically neutral. It's okay, whatever the thing is, that's the thing. Okay. So here's the story. Recently, knowing that I have an English degree, that's my background, people ask me to proofread things from time to time. So I had someone say, I'd like for you to take a look at this letter, see how it sounds. And in this letter, it was them asking permission, a request from another person. So in the letter, so I read the letter, and my immediate and only response to the person asking me to proofread it was, are you sending this letter to a man or a woman? To which the person responded, well, does it matter? To which I responded quite reluctantly, in my experience, it does, because men and women are wired differently. Men and women think differently, and they communicate differently, and they receive news differently. I said, I've been married to a woman for 13 years. I've learned a whole lot because of that. How I have to translate things I think and say into a way that my wife can hear them in a way that can be accepted and appreciated. And she's had to do the same for me. So I think for any married couple where there's a man and a woman, they know this. You learn this pretty brutally your first year of being married. Now, as far as a man being married to a man and a woman married to a woman, I can't speak on that. That's not what I know about. But what I do know personally is that men definitely speak differently and think differently than women, and vice versa. So if you want to navigate this world in communication and be a strong communicator, you're going to know that if you're asking a person a question, it helps to know whether they're a man or a woman. Because, for example, if you ask a man a question and you're asking him permission for something, if you come across as too weak or needy or not really believing in yourself, then he may see you as weak and say no. But if you're very aggressive and ask something for a woman and you're very aggressive about it, she may say no because you seem like you're, too aggressive and too charged. So you have to kind of figure out, how can I best say this? To me, this is common sense. This is Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, that gender absolutely plays a role in it. Now, what we've learned from cancel culture recently is you can't just define what a man or a woman is based on them being able to give birth or having a menstrual cycle or whatever it is. You can't, it's against the rules to acknowledge that physically a person is a man or woman. You can know those are against the rules in culture now. So what I'm asking, is it against the rules to acknowledge and admit that men and women generally think different? For example, and this would go back to a very popular book a while back, what Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, whatever it is, that book, right? Where the overall concept is that men think very compartmentalized. So it's like a channel on a TV show. I'm on this. This is what I'm thinking about right now, what the channel is. Like in your brain, I'm thinking about something. I'm deep in thought. Okay? And I can't just easily switch over to something else. If I do, I have to abandon the thing I was thinking about, and now I need to focus on this instead. Whereas women, in general, are not that way at all. In general, women, everything's overlapping, and they have all the channels going on at once. They've got all these web browsers open at once, and they're able to multitask 17 different things at once and think about them on some version of equal. Whereas men, it's one thing or another. Now, that's not to say that all men are that way, and it's not to say all women are that way. It's saying generally they are. And I think a history of Psychology tells us this. This is obvious. I've seen it in my personal life. And in my career, it's definitely helped me to know that you cannot speak to men and women in the same way. It's different when you're speaking to a mixed crowd, and I'll even change my language according there to kind of have a mix of the two different gender languages. So, here's my question. As far as what the rules are on cancel culture and gender pronouns, can we acknowledge that in general, men and women think differently, quite exclusively to their gender? Can we acknowledge that generally that's how it works? Is that something we can talk about? Or let's pretend I was somebody famous. If I were somebody famous and said, let's pretend I was worth millions of dollars and I had a famous contract on TV or Netflix, whatever. And I said, hey, you know what? I don't understand the rules of this whole gender pronoun thing, but what I do know is men and women think differently than each other in general. And they talk differently. And they even receive information differently when they hear it. Now, if I were rich and famous and I said that, would I lose my contract for admitting that general rule definitely applies? Now, I'll close it with this thought. I wish it was still on Netflix because I would totally watch it again, but there was a documentary called Do I Sound Gay? And the guy that made the documentary, who's in it and narrates and produces it, he openly acknowledges, a gay man, that the way that gay men tend to speak is more like the way a woman does. And he professionally proved this. He went to speech experts. They acknowledge that in general, gay men talk a little bit more like women. The way that they pronounce certain things, the way that they often will make things sound more like a question with the way their tone goes up. Whereas if a man asks a question like, hey, can you hand me that wrench? It would be more of a statement like, can you hand me that wrench? Whereas with the feminine way to ask that, hey, could you hand me that wrench, please? And it goes up and it's softer. Now, those are just general speaking patterns that we see how the world works and how the world functions. So is it wrong? Is it cancel worthy for a person to have this discussion and to admit this? I mean, because again, the rules for gender, apparently no one knows what makes gender anymore. And then there's people who say that gender doesn't exist. Okay? So, okay, again, I'm not here to say, no, wrong. No, I'm just saying, I'm just a guy raising my hand in the back. I don't know what's going on here. But to keep from overly offending anybody, I just want to know what the rules are. Can you really throw rotten tomatoes at a guy who's just asking the question because he doesn't understand what the new rules are? Can you help me out? Comments right here.